Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. So happy that you could join us again for another of our webinars. This one is coming to you for the second time this year. This year, it's the JBDC Virtual Gift and Craft Biz Zone, which targets entrepreneurs within the MSME sector, specifically those in the gift and craft sector. We are so happy that you could join us. Gift and craft is big business. We recently launched the National Craft Policy, which was our first presentation last week by Head of Marketing Services at JBDC, Mrs. Janine Fletcher Taylor. And this week we have another expert who is going to be delivering a wonderful webinar to you, Mr. Robert Hall. I want to tell you a little bit about Robert. Robert almost did not fulfill his purpose, which is this, to become a fashion designer and a major expert in the fashion industry in Jamaica, because the status quo would have had him enter the medical field or Christian ministry. Boy, that Christian ministry thing gets me every time. If you know Robert, you would have scratched your head when you hear about the Christian ministry bit. But as a boy who hails from cool Manchester, born to Wilfred and Elaine Hall, you could understand why the Christian bit would have come in there. But Robert is fashion designer at JBDC and a design lecturer at the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. He discovered how good he was at around age 16 when he knitted a scarf and gloves for a friend who was migrating to England. And this is where Robert, the artist and creative in chief, was born. He says he was atypical when he was a child in terms of his interests. His greatest pleasure came from immersing himself into the Vogue style books whenever he visited his cousin. It was very interesting to see the trends and different styles in each edition. Forward more than 20 years later, and Robert is recognized as one of the experts in the design industry and has been consulted by some of the top names in the local industry, helping him to develop top-notch design and patterns, helping them to develop top-notch designs and patterns. Robert is our in-house expert, a kind of comedian too. Yeah, he makes me laugh every time. Maybe he'll make you laugh a little bit this morning. I don't know, but it is my pleasure to present to you Robert Hall, and he is going to address blueprints and trends in accessory design, the Jamaican application.
Good morning, everyone. Suzette Campbell, thank you so very much for that. I don't even know what to name that that introduction. At times I was wondering, is that the same person? Is that the Robert Hall that I know? Anyway, thank you so much for that, and good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for logging on to the webinar this morning. What we want to be doing as the theme, the topic for the session has indicated, we want to be looking at accessories, and specifically we want to be looking at jewelry, we want to be looking at bags, we want to be looking at footwear and associated, all right? Now, what I plan to do, how I'm going to tackle this is that one, it's going to be fairly hands-on. I want to basically give you some skills. Now, just in my interactions in the industry over, the time that I've worked with the clients that we have here and other individuals, I've noticed that, I know, we have this thing in Jamaica where, we're pretty fashionable people and we're pretty savvy when it comes to that space. And so oftentimes the driver, how it is that we want to be, we want to make things that are, that would definitely pull the clientele, and when we go to one look hot and all them stuff there. So within that vein though, I find that how it is that we decide what we're going to do, that can be problematic at times. And even with the policy and what has been written, we have to recognize, and I'm sure that we have, initially when I was growing up, identifying Jamaican with product wasn't something that was to your advantage. Nowadays it is. And you see people even outside of our shores actually doing that. No, we need to begin to understand as persons as entrepreneurs, as design entrepreneurs, as persons who are working in the field, we need to understand how to do that. So this session is going to, yes, we're going to be talking about the trends, but I want to take you on a little journey of how is it that one, find themes that are relevant, find material that will allow you to actually work your product development process to come up with exciting products that would allow your cash flow, your sales to actually see that, to allow your client to respond positively, to allow you to basically develop your journey as you talk about offering products to the public. So we're going to be looking at how is it that we find this trend material, this information. And then two, I want to look a little bit at how is it that we translate that into material or into something or into product now that actually works in terms of design. Now, a lot of persons often, when we talk about design, we say, oh, I can't draw. I never go to art school. I never really did do art. I can't draw, so I can't read design. So I just kind of do some things and kind of end up with some stuff and I call it mine. All right. So we want to, again, kind of move us beyond that space and give us some skills in terms of how do I know. So after I move from my research phase, how do I move from that into actually implementing that to come up with a product that actually works? All right. So let us jump in. I'm not going to be uploading a presentation this morning. So you're going to mainly be seeing me, and I'll also have some examples that I'll show and some images that I'll show along the way. So that is how we're going to be working for the period that we are engaging in this discussion. All right. So let's talk about the first issue of trends. Now, when we talk about trends, oftentimes when we say trends, we think about fashion, we think about, some book or some document or some kind of information, some video coming from some other space telling you what is in and what is out. And we will often sit and say that, oh, somebody somewhere is actually deciding that. Now, why do we need trend? A trend really is about market information that I am using to actually evolve and generate the product that I'm actually doing. So with that in mind, literally, whichever space that you're working with, then you now need to have some indication of what your customers are thinking, what do they need, how much it is that they're willing to pay, what kind of materials they're into, what do they like, what do they dislike, what are their activities. So for any of us who have done any kind of market, whether study, or any kind of engaging with marketing, you're using elements of that as well as you're actually zoning in on this who that you're selling, what do they want and what do they need, and how it is that you're going to translate that to or translate that to what it is that you are actually doing. Okay. Now this trend information, it starts off verbal with the who is this person, how old are they, what are their attributes, what are they into, and from that we're going to be looking at what are the activities, and from the activities you can basically make a deduction or if you don't have it clearly stated, you can now look at, based on the activities, what is it that they actually need or want for those activities, and then that will give you an indication of like the kind of products that you need to be looking at. All right. Now with that as well, you also need to get a sense of what it is, how much are these people willing to pay for what it is that they want to do. No, the reason why I go back to this, and if you look at the two other presentations that I've done with JBDC, this is something that is important. As a designer, this is part of the frame that you're setting up for you to actually evolve the work that you're actually doing, okay? It's not just, as I said in an earlier presentation about design DNA, how I engage the market is not just about me and what I'm projecting onto the individuals. If I want the items to sell, then I must be aware of what it is my customers need and what they want, okay? Now, Along with that, you're also going to be thinking about when is it that those persons need it. All right. So when I look at the after I look at the what they want and where they want it, etc., the attributes, I now look at the when do they need it. All right. Because the when do they need it now begins to actually point towards the whole issue of timing, which comes to what we call selling seasons, aka the big ones that we know internationally as it relates to fashion would be spring, summer, autumn, winter. Okay, so if you're involved in fashion, you often see those kind of demarcations. If you're in the spaces like in the temperate regions where these spaces are very clearly marked by a change of temperature, change of activities. In the Caribbean, we know that we don't really have that so much. But what we can do, so when you move beyond that, just let's say the seasons in terms of hot weather and cold weather, you start looking at about activities, sensibilities, and what people want. So in Jamaica, you know that there is a Christmas season because there are Christmas activities, okay, and Christmas needs. In the summer, pre-COVID, you know that you have summer activities. School is out. Persons are on in vacation type mode. The weather is warmer than usual. People tend to go to the beach a whole lot more, etc. Hence, that will become a summer season. All right. You also have in Jamaica, there's the carnival season. There might be graduation season. There might be, then graduation season. There's a prom graduation, that whole bar season right there, and then there's a graduation, as in the UE graduation and the university graduation. And I mentioned that because based on even though that is just one school as in a UE, or a couple universities because we may have, let's say, two, three, four, five of them doing graduations at the time. But based on the numbers, it becomes something that is significant too. That can be a significant market group to the individuals that are there. All right. So as I said, the issue of timing and the band of time becomes the selling season. Anybody who knows, anybody who does clothing, just making etc., knows that usually in the summer and as you get closer to the end of August and especially from the beginning of August, it is school uniform time. And that's the time where the focus of most people so is school uniform. Them don't sleep, they sleep very little because that is the season for school uniform. Okay? So the reason why I bring this up is that again we talk about the what am I selling, the who am I selling to, who is this person, who is my target market, what they need, and then the needs are going to give you the indication of the products, and then from the products, move into the issue of the timing, which tells you when you are going to need to actually have these products ready, and it gives you a selling season band. When you look at trends relate to that. Internationally, you get a trend book, and they tell you, oh, this is the stuff that's coming up for next year, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Now I know that our focus is MSMEs, and of course, most times you find that even those trend books they may not be relevant to you. They give you a generic kind of painting across the board. But in terms of how do I find the information that is relevant to me and my space that I find stuff that works? Okay. Now a good way I find to actually mine that information is just to access your retail spaces. Find some retail spaces that are relevant to the groupings that you're looking at and basically follow those retail spaces and allow that retail space to give you back information about what is there, what could work, what is happening, etc. Okay. You can also look at spaces like your raw material spaces. How am I getting my raw materials? And let's say your raw material supplier might be bringing in a lot of X item for whatever reason. All right. You now have the power to respond to that. So you can look at it and decide this can work, this cannot work based on based on what is there as well, to even in terms of trends. You are not only looking at just this is what they said that is in, but you're also looking at what is available. It doesn't make sense you make a product that I can't find the raw materials for, that I have to travel halfway around the world and becomes very expensive when I might have a lot of A or B or C that is in. All right. So again, your raw material direction actually impacts, and this is something that is standard internationally. So again, even in your small space as an MSME, that is something that you respond to in terms of what are the raw materials that are available. Okay. Let's say, for example, straw might be available. All right. Or you might be interested in doing straw, but then I need to go and look, do I have straw? Do I have the person who can actually do the straw work for me? It doesn't make sense. I decide to do A or B in my product line if it is not going to be very, very difficult to actually access that item. All right. So I'm just gonna recap a bit. All right. So we start off looking at the target grouping, okay? And we look at target where we spoke about trends. And as I said, the trend is actually coming from your target market and what they want, what do they need, and out of that, you're actually evolving the product that you're going to be doing. All right. Um, we spoke about the issue. So from once you determine what they need, then you look at the time band that you're working in, as in when do they need it, okay? And different time bands of needs are going to give you different selling seasons that you have available to yourself, okay? AKA different needs at different times, all right? And then along with that, now you want to be looking at now what are the raw materials that are available to me, okay? Availability of raw materials helps to determine direction, okay? And in terms of what you decide to do is also going to be impacted by what is what are the skills that are available to me, okay? So let's say I might, if let's go back to straw work, I might be interested in straw work, I might be interested in leather work. Do I have the artisans? Do I have the persons who are able to actually turn out what it is that I need to turn out? It doesn't make sense. I decide I'm going to do beautiful leather totes and I don't have anybody to produce a beautiful leather totes. So even though it looks simple, it looks like a great idea. Um, it doesn't make sense if I decide that this is going to be in my product line or I make a beautiful sample, but I cannot actually replicate the numbers that I'm actually speaking of. All right. The other matter, so beautiful totes, as well as sometimes you may not be able to access, as we said earlier, the raw material. Okay. So again, let's say we look at the trends and they're doing plaited leather. But then if I have nobody to do plaited leather, then does it make sense that I actually put it in my particular collection or decide to focus on it? Okay. Now, having considered that, one of the things that we need to understand about trend information that you glean and mine uh, is that you also have to think about, so there's the issue of the raw materials, etc., the skills and that kind of what is there. But then trend information is not prescriptive. It is merely giving you an opinion, a direction, and you are always be thinking, you're always going to respond in your voice of what is my response to this, okay? So again, when you have some time, go back to the presentation on design DNA, and I speak about having a personal voice. Every designer has a personal voice. We just have to become aware of that personal voice, okay? And whenever I respond in design, whenever you make something, you're responding in your personal voice, okay? When you respond in that voice, you do not take trend information that you're getting. And when I say trend information, translate that as whether it is that you spoke to the store owner and them say, oh, everybody want leather bag. Or they say, oh, everybody wants some nice little, and just want some nice little simple bags, basically. Or they want a lot of chain with a whole heap of link and a whole heap of things dropping off of it, right? You now need to understand, you need to take that information and decide, how do I respond? It is not prescriptive or saying that this is what you must do. It says, this is where the market is at. The question is that, how do I respond? Okay? All right. So the response that you're going to be doing is in product, and the product direction now is what you decide to do based on the information that you actually are getting. All right. So that is a little overview in terms of now how is it that you actually, how do I evolve? How do I glean trend information from the space that are there? So as I said, in terms of gleaning trend information, you may have international publications, but you want to use what is around you, the market that you're working with. You want to be looking at, as I said, you can use a store, a retail space that you can literally observe um, customer behavior to actually decide, okay, how do I transpose that information into my space? What is really going on in the spaces that I'm looking at? Look at your customers, look at how they're responding, speak to the people in the store spaces that you're looking at, find out how is it that you respond. Does a lot of this sell out? Does a lot of that sell out? Or does it sit on the shelf? And that now helps you to balance out what it is that you're intending to do. Okay? So I said trade information is information about the market, which you can glean from what is around you, and that information, they say, use a retail store to actually find, to anchor that information. All right. So that is not how it is that we start off to give us the information to start. No, once I've decided that I'm going to do that, I can now look at the international understanding of what is going on to decide, all right, this is what we're going to do. Okay? Now, when it is that I do that, how do I find that international information? And easy, usually you can use your website, you can use your Instagram page, you can use your social media pages of these people that are there, and you can see what it is that they're doing, what they're intending to do. Nowadays, information in terms of the next season is readily available free online, and that is what you're going to use to actually follow what is there. Now, a note in relation to that. Now, I know that in times past, and when I just got introduced to trend information, I would often, excuse me, I would often think that, okay, you have to be, everybody wants to be avant-garde, the most current, in all of that zone, which is excellent and it's wonderful, okay? But please understand, trend information does not just die, after one season. So if they say, oh, for the summer, fluorescents are in, okay? It's not a situation where as summer done, you have to pack up every fluorescent or every hot color like that and just pack them up and chuck them away and find something totally different. Okay? See, people don't think about your wardrobe. You don't throw out things in your wardrobe after 2 months just so wear it one time and throw it out. And as a matter of fact, nowadays that is actually not recommended at all. And it is part of what people say is the challenge as it relates to the fashion industry being seen as one of the highest pollutants, the whole issue of disposable clothing. So when it is that you make items for this space, these are not disposable items. Okay, so your trends don't wear out after one season. Usually, trends actually evolve. So usually, if you're doing fluorescence, you're probably going to find that you might be working with it for a good 1, 2, 3 years in essence. While in that you might be beginning to overlay and combine it with other things to evolve in the next item. So take for example, a lot of the trends have been indicating that metallics are coming back. But then it's not that, oh, you're going to throw out everything that you're doing and just jump to metallics. As I say, you may begin to, combine metallics with a little bit of your fluorescent colors. And at the same time, you're from the Caribbean, so you may have very tactile services that you're combining with, etc. So as I say, it is an evolution, and it is not about you trying to be in or trying to be out, which is our understanding of fashion and trend and this whole space. It is not about this fleeting, flashing, instant element that is there. It is about an evolution of a product, right? So don't think of your product as this, oh, this on summer I'm going to do this, and then for Christmas me I'm going to do something totally different, and you don't drop like that. It is an evolution. You overlay, you evolve, and you take your customer with it. They can journey with you in this space. It spells better sense for production. It spells better sense for costing as well. All right. So what I'm going to do this morning now is that we're going to walk through a little bit of that development process. So again, we're talking about accessories. So what I did was that I went on to online, and there's a site that I follow in terms of fashion, which gives me fashion information as it is happening. And out of that, they have a section that deals with the whole issue of what is happening next and the shows and what designers are showing. And so we are now I'm now going to share my screen to look at what are the trends for that space. All right, so let me do that right now. All right, so this is VogueRunway.com. All right, one of many sites that you can find. There's L.com, there's BOF.com. And basically what I want is I want a site that is going to show me what the international designers in the other spaces have been working with and how it is that they've been evolving their products. So traditionally, fashion comes out of Fashion Week, fashion weeks. And, the main ones are New York, London, Milan, and Paris. And out of that, basically, we kind of get the canon of Western fashion. That is what people are going to be using, that's what stores are going to buy, etc. All right. And so with that, So this is the Vogue runway template, and right now the spring summer ready to wear shows are happening for 2021. Okay, but if you go into the archives of the site, what you are going to find is that they have a section called seasons, and you see past articles. So usually what happens is that they are, I'm going to go to spring summer, the last one that they did, which was 2020. Okay. Right. Okay. So this is spring summer 2020, and what they do is that they actually, when the season is finished, they will go through and they will do some summaries for you. All right. So I'm going to look at the summary in relation to jewelry and accessories. All right. And here it is, the top jewelry trends for spring 2020 from chokers to full body width. So we're going to look at that and we're going to see what is there. I'm going to click on that and let's see that coming up. So as we wait for that to load, as I said to you, you want to look at multiple terrain, multiple areas, multiple spaces to actually get the information that you want. All right. So I'm looking at the international shows to start off with. Along with that, you probably want to look at some kind of retail space that is relevant to you and what you're interested in. And then also combined with that, you also want to look at you probably can look at how it is that people are processing it in terms of whether it is that you might look at a show season, and you might look at you know, basically what they were wearing outside of the shows. You want to look at how it is that people probably wearing it out on the road, etc. All right. Forgive me. All right. I seem to have a small challenge here. Let me just get this done very quickly. So it is the compounding of that information that is going to give you a direction as it relates to what is happening, you know, in the wider space. And nowadays, we also have to remind ourselves that we do not sell just to Jamaicans and to those who are around you immediately. All right. When you post your things on your Instagram pages, people are seeing them from all across the world. Just look at your likes and begin to click on who is there. And it's going to start to realize that it's not just the local people around you. You're probably going to find that you have some people following you from halfway around the world that you know, you never know. All right. Right, here we go. Top jewelry trends for spring summer 2020 from chokers to full body widths. All right. And this was 2 seasons ago. And usually I like to look back a little further because then it also shows your trajectory. You're going to find where probably something started. You're going to find if it's very new. You're going to find if it's something that is fleeting or if it's something that definitely makes sense. All right. So here it is on Vogue. This writer, led person, she basically has done an overview of the trends that are there. So let's look at the themes that persons have been um, looking at for the time. All right. So they have a couple. All right. And remember, as I said, what you see here is not prescriptive. It's not, oh, I must do it or I'm never dead. Okay. It's just a direction, and you just think about how do I respond? Does this make sense to me? Does this make sense to my space? All right. So the first one is back to nature, and they're saying jewelry doesn't have to be precious. And they said that they saw shells, they saw wood, they saw raffia, etc. And again, for us in our space, that's something that we can relate to. So let's look at what they actually brought. So we're seeing here shells that are there. This is from Prada, I think. And you can actually look at the different images. Let's scroll to a couple of them. All right. One of the things that I also like to balance this with as well, to even help to give your collection depth, is also even looking back to say, okay, you might find a trend happening, think back, am I getting the sense of a different fashion time period? Okay, because what you find out is that it helps to give you depth and range in terms of how it is to approach, how it is that you can actually approach what is actually there. All right, it doesn't have to be a single, oh, this is the way they did it, so oh, they did chorus shells, so I have to do it this way. Now, if you notice here, this is from, let me just see the reference. This is from Oscar de la Renta, okay? And we see here they were putting, this is multiple hoops, and they have chorus shells on that, all right? Now, we look at that now. I see the chorus shells, and if you notice as well, too, of course, in the last couple of weeks, Beyonce released her new discography, her new, sorry, not her discography, her new album, all right? And it was very highly, it was about, you know, sourcing from a lot of Black individuals, and there's a lot of imagery around Africa, and there's a lot of imagery with some of this that's actually there. So that again gives you a direction and depth. You could literally decide, okay, let me go and look at the video as well too, and probably put on some of those references combined with what it is that we are seeing. All right. So definitely seeing here natural. You're seeing shells as a part of the story. All right, and you can take a note of this. You see the shells are pendant. You can take a note of this and actually look through it later on. So that was the first theme. The second one, the body beautiful, Pacaraban, first example borderline between jewelry and dress. And this one is really about the jewelry almost as full body items and here in the form of a dress. All right. So this is the first one here, and literally it's just like an overlay that is done. Okay, this is another one. I think this is from Area, Gypsy Sports, sorry, right? And again, we've seen this in the past. Look at also the handbag that we have down here, which is something that I know that we've seen and produced here in Jamaica. Right, again, we have the dress overlay. And we see here, it's almost like a chain that becomes this huge overlay of an item right there. You know, and here you can be thinking about things like your cover-ups for your swimsuits, that kind of thing. Let me go back. There's another one here that has, right? So it's like leather strips and straps with decorative elements in there. All right, so this one, as I say, it's the body, it's basically body jewelry. So not the jewelry just being a necklace or a bracelet, but full body coverage. All right, so as I say, you can go back and look back at it in detail. All right, this one is the next theme. Okay, hoops. So basically hoops, as we had seen earlier. And I think you're also going to see a lot of, you know, single hoops being worn. So let's just kind of scroll through what's there. Okay. There we have it again. And if you notice, there are actually beads strung on the hoop that is here. All right. Hoops, but very large. It's hoops plus fabric treatments. All right. Also, just to remind you that when you see things on the runway are not necessarily to be worn as is, and oftentimes it's done for effect. So think about this same direction, but think about it just being highly reduced. So not all that fabric, but probably just a ribbon running through it or just a ribbon strip, okay? So again, multiple hoops at the same time. And notice different textures. So you have the silver, you have something, it looks like it's beaten, and then you basically have, you know, like what is it? Some kind of prickle kind of thing going on there, and it actually has a pearl probably combined with it at the entry at the top. Okay, so okay, you're seeing a very African element that is here, or traditional rather. Okay, you know, hoops and beads. All right, so as I said, that's 6 of 12. You can go back and look at it on your own. All right. Okay. Next one, spheres of influence. Jewel creator literally had a bar for spring, suspending globes of metal and glass from earlobes and stringing multicolored beads into lariats, etc. And so we see it here. Let's start with that. So lots of circles, lots of globes, lots of those as pendants. All right. You see it there again. Okay. Seeing that in the ears, in the earrings. All right. That, and then also notice the head decoration as well too. And you could even say that was an evolution from the floor crown trend, which you could say even started from the whole Instagram element that is there. So, you know, all of that is going on. All right, the next one, LinkedIn chokers remain high on the must-have list. Bigger is better in terms of links. So very large links, okay? And as a choker, all right? And here we have some examples again, all right? And of course, as you're looking at the trend, you're thinking about your own, what do you do? As I said, trends are not about dropping things to actually become something else. It is about, it's a response. So you still are responding in how I do things. It's not, you must now go and learn jewelry or go and learn to go beat metal and that kind of thing. No, you're looking at how do I, what is my direction and how can I interpret that direction with what is there, all right? And as you say, if you notice, they mentioned chokers, very large links of item. It doesn't mean that you have to go and involve pearls. It doesn't mean that you have to go and do metal. If you do beads and you do wood and you do leather and that kind of thing, you still are moving that. But again, maybe you are going to now make leather links out of or links out of leather and begin to plait those together, and you may actually have beads in, you know, intertwined and plaited in there. Okay, so as I say, it's just a frame to just give you direction in terms of your own product, to give you almost a catalyst towards something new, what is there in essence. All right, so let me just go down to the next one. Free falling. Okay, so lots of long neck bead pieces that we're seeing there. All right. So let's just move through this one, right? And again, you see the neck is almost like a double strand a little bit. They doubled it, and then you actually have the link instead of it being a single pendant. Basically, it's almost like multiple pendants dropping down in the center right there, and then also look at the ear decorations as well. All right, we see it here again. Okay, and if you notice this one where they both have the metal and the beads actually, and then the theme that we saw earlier about the natural elements being involved, you see that there, and so they actually use they casted those pieces out of metal and actually added them as links. All right. Okay, here you have again, and you're seeing also again the mix of materials that are happening in the piece. Okay. Next one, twinkle toes. There's nothing more down to earth about a brooch. There's nothing down to earth about a brooch on a sock, a chandelier drop suspended from an espadrille or delicate anklet jewelry. So kick up your heels and have some fun. So this is where now the bejeweling is also happening on the footwear as well. And so this is one where we see the espadrille, which is mounted on a base. With the bejeweling happening on the straps running across. And if you notice, the straps are actually out of some silicone-like transparent material. Okay, note the mix of materials. Now, oftentimes we think in these spaces that, oh, it has to be completely natural or completely that. All right, and especially even in the understanding of things like the green economy, we also have to understand that green economy doesn't mean all natural materials. Green economy often speaks about the effect on the environment. So recycling is seen as a very green process because you're taking back items, and some of those might be plastic items that you know involved in your product again. All right. So again, bejeweling, so a lot of the closures to the sandals, etc., brooches. Now we're seeing a lot of closed footwear, which we don't do a lot of up in Jamaica, but what you say, you're taking the essence of what is there and you're not combining. Okay, again, we're seeing the mix of material, mix of textures in terms of sandals, right? Here we have it again, you know, macrame type cordings and stringing of beads on that, and it's actually on a heel. Again, we see it there. All right. Okay. A little bit more minimal, and the straps are actually out of satin, a satin type material. Okay, and again, we see the combination of the jewelling or what might even be some, it's either beading or jewelry along with the sandal that's there. All right, and here we're seeing the brass and the gold along with silicone type pendant strapping. All right, so I think that is the end of that, right, of that one right there. So as I said, this is Vogue Runway, and you may find other ones that are there. As I said, what happens is that they've just gone and compounded. They basically gone and just literally just done a summary for you, so you literally can go in and find what is happening right there. Okay. No, again, another, so as I said, you want to look at multiple terrain, multiple spaces to extract the trends that are there. So another space that I went to is the retail space. Now, depending on where you want to sell and the type of things you want to sell, then it will determine the type of spaces that you go to. I tend to like to go to the very high-end spaces because that often tells you product direction, and then you can very easily whittle it down to the space that is there. And usually the design content is very high as well too. So it gives you a lot to play with and a lot to work with. All right. So I'm using my online spaces this morning, and this is a space that is called, this is Louis Aroma. It's an international site that sells luxury items. So if you notice the prices there, which are quoted in US dollars, you know, so a bag for 1,250, and this is a shoulder bag, etc. Okay, and these are what prices are international. All right, but notice it's a luxury store. Hence, that tells you the framing and the space that you're actually operating in. So we want to look at this because this, I think, is a very good summary. Another one that you can use is Farfetch as well too. And as I say, usually they're going to go and get the latest, and this is now what is coming in. You can look at it in terms of the newest arrivals, etc. All right. So I'm going to look at this page, and this is going to help me to see some of what is there. Now, in terms of accessories, one of the directions that we see is strong, solid shapes. Okay. So they're strong solid shapes, but a lot of them are very, they are like some softening of the edges. They are very graphic, but there's a softening of the edge. And so in the first line of bag, you see them here. And so you have these strong, clean notation. So this is actually a leather bag, a shoulder bag, but it's in a strong circular kind of formation, okay? This one is in an almost oval type, almost triangular type, you know, almost look like it would be a stone or something of the sort, and we see what's there. Okay. Similarly, this one, and this even harps back to an earlier shape that we had in the early 2000s, and this one right here. Okay. Now, as we see, let's click on it to see how does it look on the individual. What is the scale of the item? What's the scale of the accessory that we're working with? So let's try this one. All right. So the brand is called Stud. All right, Mini Moon leather bag. All right, let me see if I have any product pictures in terms of persons. Unfortunately, no. But they actually give you dimensions, right? Which is 15.5 centimeters, 29 centimeter depth, 7 centimeters. So I just say it's a shoulder strap. Well, not quite, it's 15 centimeters, not very, very large. All right. So let's go back to our main page. All right. So as I said, strong. So the first trend direction, strong graphic shapes. Okay. So again, you could look in your setting and look at, okay, what are some shapes that I might be interested in doing? Okay. All right. The next one that I'm seeing here, just waiting for the images to arrive. But as I said, as I've been saying earlier, your response to your treatment with the trend is a response. It's not a prescription to say this is how it must be. All right. So you're literally looking at how is it that I actually, how is it that I respond in my own space and my own language to see what is there, right? Now, another thing, even with the very graphic shapes, is that they've also been doing these very mini shapes. So there are some images that they've been having as well, where they've been showing you very, like they have these shapes, but they're very, very small. And it's usually in very cubicle-like structures, but it's very small, minute type of bag. So it's almost like a bag, just enough to carry your earpods, you know, that kind of element. So that is, and we're seeing a little bit right here. So this is extra small hourglass croc embossed leather bag that we're seeing here. So that's in this, that same element right there. And you're seeing a lot of this type of, there you have it. So scale to the body, very small bags, right? So that is also another, in other words, going very small. And there's some people who actually offer it in a set of maybe like 2 or 3. So you might have a regular size and a very small mini bag. So you might have this very small bag and it actually has a shoulder strap on it that you can put on as well, all right? So that's part of the trend as well, all right? The next trend that I want to highlight is very soft. So there is the graphic shapes that we saw earlier. Let me scroll up. So which is what you have there. And then you have the very opposite where they have these very soft structures. Let me see if I can find more of this that I'm speaking about. Very soft structures. This is it. So here you have it right here. 1, 2, 3, right? So what they have is almost like these structures that it's more about the pleating and the ruching, and you are allowing the plain, the initial bags were done in leather, and it's plain, it's soft, it's a very soft structure. As they said, this is called the mini pouch, and you literally, it's almost like you just pull some fabric together to just form this, to just gather around. You know, it's almost like in Jamaica where in the older times when you'd be carrying like they're doing a market load or something like that, and they literally just have like a big piece of cloth and just throw the pieces in there and just pull up everything. So it's that element, but very, very small. Or not very small, but like enough that I can hold it in my hand or a little bit bigger. So that's definitely something that is there, right? And you can come back to the site. And so as I said, it's not about very sharp edges. So as I said, the earlier one showed very sharp edges. This one now is more softer elements that are on the end that is there, okay? The third one that I want to bring your attention to is craft in terms of weaving. And so you see it here now, and this has been around for maybe like 1 or 2 seasons already, where you have this, it's a relatively small, it's called a poly cassette leather bag, just enough to go over your shoulder. You can actually hold it in your hand as a clutch as well too. But the texture is the woven texture that we actually have happening on the top that is there. All right. So that definitely is something that is in terms of direction, is something to pay attention to. We know in Jamaica, in terms of the craft, we have the weaving, etc. All right. Okay. Again, you're seeing here that graphic shape with the small bag, which, as I say, is something that is on for sure. You'll see it here as well with this other bag with the element that is there. Okay, as I said, we said softer shapes. So it's graphic shapes, small, softer shapes, and we're also saying it's the softer shapes. The graphic shapes are often very small and minute and tiny. Okay, the shoulder bag is also back, and you see here by Valextra. All right. And that shoulder bag is definitely in for sure. We're seeing the weaving here again. Also, and this is one by Bottega Veneta, the chain link again is also quite popular as a strap. And you would, just like what we saw in the jewelry trends with large links, you also move the large link over to the bags as well. All right, so that is an element to look at. Okay. There's this other element here. So you have this one here. We've been seeing everybody doing the crossover, the fanny pack, but being worn as a shoulder bag, as a crossover bag for both male and female. And then you also have very large monogram logos as well. This is also very large monogram logos as closures as well. And you see it here. You see it here on the Valentino piece right here. Okay, very large logo metal plating, you see it here as well. Okay, right? Very large closure, we see it there in the element, all right? Okay, we're going back to our graphic shapes that we spoke about earlier, okay? We're seeing also some quilting as well, some quilting and some padding as well. We've been seeing directionally in terms of that. All right, again, you're seeing the quilting again. We're seeing the graphic shapes, okay? We're seeing the softness almost there. Yes, it has some of the graphic elements, but you're seeing the softness in the elements right there. Very large logo, chain link as well as a treatment, okay? So that translate as metal mixtures to what is there, okay? Also, we're seeing the craft element of the raffias, the tactile. We're seeing the very large logo elements are here as well. All right. Again, this is again very popular bag. Okay, and this is a larger version. They actually go down very minute with this, right down to the AirPod size for this as well. Okay. Right. We've also seen with Balenciaga, which has been around for this a while, they also do their logo printing. So that might also translate as the large logo that we've been speaking about. We see again the very soft shape. All right, so shapes that are dominated by texture as opposed to dominated by the graphic. So you have the two ends of the scale in essence. All right, we're seeing the elements that are there. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it. So again, we see the same metal elements, metal links, major logos. All right. So as I said, when you're mining your trend, you're looking both in the runway stuff, but you also want to look at how does it translate to retail as well too. You can also look at. I'd also recommend that you also find some Instagram pages of people who are influencers, follow and see how they're treating with what is there, along with also combining with that as well to street style. So literally the combining of that gives how is it that you treat with what is there. So the final element, and I've been speaking for this a while, all right? So the final part of this, I hope this is helpful so far. The final element of this now is how do I move this into my space that it works for me as a designer? Now, as I said to you earlier, let me just stop sharing for a bit. As I said to you earlier, you have to be aware of your own design DNA. You have to ensure that you understand who am I as a designer. You do not respond to trend to obliterate or to cancel out what you are interested in. It is to augment, to give you a catalyst, to give you some inspiration, some direction in terms of going forward. That is how you treat with trend. And as I said, if you go back to when we post recording, as I said to you, use your retail spaces, use the information around you to actually treat with the trends that are there. Now, once you understand that and you understand who you are, now I'm going to do a small little exercise for you. Now, once I do that element that's there, let's say, okay, I'm Robert Hall, I'm a designer, and I live in Jamaica, and let's say I have some people who can do straw for me as with the straw hats that are in my background, all right? So I want to make, let's say I'm going to make some bags, or I'm going to make some jewelry that actually has the straw element involved. It's going to look modern, it's going to look new and relevant to the space that is there, and it's going to be fresh and different. So I have some new stuff to show and help me along my journey, all right? So I understand what I do. And let's say I always use straw in my work. And I also have access to beads, and I have also, I can also have access to a little bit of leather, not a whole heap, but a little bit of leather, all right? So how do I use all of that to respond to the trends that are there? So let me tell you what's else. So I'm going to go back to the trends and choose some elements that are there. So I'm going to go back to my jewelry trends. And from what I remember with the jewelry trends, I think the one that spoke to me a whole lot was this one about LinkedIn, okay? Chokers as must have, and chokers as these nice big brush, graphic elements that are there. All right, and I know that some of the young people have been wearing them, and I see what's there and say, what, maybe we could have done something around that. And I like this image right here where it have the big links, and it have the elements that are there. So I said, all right, what, I'm going to keep that. So I could take that and I could put that on a board. And then I'm going to go to my other page that I was looking at right here, and I'm seeing I think I like the one that has the whole texture with the cassette bag here. I'm probably even thinking a little bit about the soft shapes, but that and the big links and the leather. So let me see if I can pull up this image as well. Oh, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Let me share my screen. My apologies. I totally forgot. All right, so this is my cassette bag, and I see the weaving elements that are there. I see the chain link elements that are there. Okay, all right. And as I said, I'm reminding you, we're now looking at how do we translate these into product that would actually work. All right. I'm gonna go to my jewelry, and again, I have my image right here of the layered links that are there. Okay. So I'm now going to, I have beside next to myself, I have, so yes, I have the Bottega cassette bag. I have that's there, okay. I also have the straw that you saw in the background. Let me just stop sharing my screen for a bit. Okay, so this is the straw that I have. So let's say I had access to this and I can use this as a surface of a part of what I'm doing, all right? Now, with the inspiration that I have and the elements that I have, I now need to make some indication of image. And let's say I'm going to start off very simply, and let me just start off with a basic tote bag. Now, one thing that you have to remember is that you just isolated three elements. You isolated the straw as one. The second thing is you had the leather elements that we're going to show that we showed. Let me just share my screen again quickly. All right, so we have our leather elements here, and we're seeing the chain link, as in the metal, the large links, and also the leather and the weaving. So that's three elements. So you have the weaving, you have the metal elements, okay? And then let me go to my other image that I had earlier, which is the metal elements. You have the pearls there, the mixing of elements, okay? So I have the mixing of elements, okay? I have the large links, I have the leather as a material, I have the weaving as an element there, and I have the straw that's there. So that's about 5 elements that I have. Think of them as separate items before you actually start treating with them. All right. So I'm going to come back to, I'm going to start my sharing, my screen share. And then I'm now going to start to now imagine my item that is there. So this is now where I now need to make some kind of drawing. And you can start the drawing by collecting images, okay? Which again, we recommend make a mood board, and mood board is just a collection of images. You can do it very easily online of things that you're interested in or shapes that you're interested in, right? So you can whittle it down to, let's say, 3 shapes, and then you want to merge those shapes into one, right? So the first element of designing that is just basically drawing a shape, all right? So I'm going to draw a basic, I'm going to start with the smallest element, which is a basic tote bag structure that basically has, it's going to be a basic square, okay? And it's going to have a strap that goes on. All right, so let me just brighten that up for you. And I'm going to show you that in a second, which is 1, 2, 3. All right. So this is my basic tote. Now, if you notice, this is not a fancy drawing. You don't need a fancy drawing, okay? You want to look at what is the shape, what is the basic shape that I'm working with. So even with the trends that we saw, let's say I wanted to do a different shape. Again, reduce it to what is the shape that I am working with? What is the shape that I am working? Okay, basic shape, and especially when it comes to accessories, clean basic shapes to start off with. All right. So I have my basic shapes. Now remember, there are two other elements that I saw. So there's the element of the straw as a material, but there's also the element of the plaiting that was there that we saw earlier. Okay. So I'm going to combine that with what is there. So I have now included, this is my weaving that I spoke about, that plaiting that we spoke about. So it's a basic shape that has now been combined with the woven element that is there. Okay, all right. So that's my woven element, all right. Now I can look at the element of, and I'm doing accessories, so I can now look at the element of what is my strap going to look like. All right, I'm gonna go back to my inspiration for a second. All right. So on my screen, I have my inspiration here, which has my links, which are large, and my mixture of items, right? So this could actually be the inspiration for my strap that is there. Okay. So I'm going to make that my strap. All right. So I'm going to change my paper while you're looking at the inspiration. Just kind of putting my image together. All right, let me show you what I drew. And as you remember, when we're drawing, we are just doing basic shapes. So again, you see at the base of the paper, my strap, inspired by what I did, and I did as a double strap as both the beading or the pearls and leather that would be there. Okay? All right, so that's my inspiration. All right, so I have, out of my exercise, I have three possible shapes that I could be looking at. I could be doing a woven texture running across, and my straps are combined. So I'm going to clean up one of these into an option for you. Okay, so let me do that quickly. Okay, so here we have it. It's a basic tote structure. It has a woven piece that's there, and my strap is actually a double strap with well, beads or pearls or whatever, and a leather strap, or it could be a leather link strap, and then I make sure I have somewhere that I can actually hold what is there. So this is my product idea A from a basic tote. I'm going to do one more for you before I stop, okay? And I'm going to use one of the earlier shapes that we did, where we spoke about having these graphic shapes. Okay, so I'm going to use one of those as the element. All right, so this is, I use my circular shape, and what I did was that I did my interweaving there, and then I actually, at the top section, I had some kind of beading happening on the two elements, and then I would have my interlink happening right there. So all of that came from the research that I did earlier. And again, when I start thinking now about my materials, I could now be thinking my straw as my base was there. I don't have pearls, so I know I get beads at the store, so I could now combine my beads what's there. I know I can get leather scraps. So basically I could actually combine that with what is there now to give you, actually give me 1 second, let me just grab something quickly. All right, so I am, right, so I'm back with my desk. So I have my images, all right? So this is my sketch. And then my raw materials, straw, I have leather. This is what is I'm actually able to access, right? Okay, so literally you're now beginning to see the raw materials combined with the textures what's there, okay? And then I can combine things like even crochet, which I know is available to me, all right? So I have crochet elements pretty much there. And that now, all of a sudden, the basic image that I have can now be enlivened by the raw materials that's there, okay? So I'm gonna stop right there. And there's a lot of information to actually absorb, okay? But literally, as I said, just basic overview. So as I said, so we looked at this morning, we looked at how is it that we mine the information, all right? We use things that were accessible to us. So as I said, we speak about our retail space that's around us. And then we also now talk about accessing the international, but bringing those that inspiration to my local space, and then thinking about the raw materials now available to me, so that then at the end of the day, the product reads in my personal language in a way that's relevant, but at the same time, it's still appealing to my market group. So that's pretty much it. And Suzette, back over to you.
Thank you, Robert. Interesting practical display there. I can see the comments in the chat section. They were quite impressed and pleased. Boy, Robert, you make this thing look so easy.
But it is.
Nah, for somebody like me who can't draw nothing, no. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. The trends in it that you showed from the online space were actually very interesting as well. I loved the body jewelry.
Right.
Mm,
Yes.
mm, mm, mm. I love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Have we been
Yes.
making any of that locally? I haven't seen any. Have we?
Actually, there is a I know one young lady, um, Dahimia. She was a part of our design fusion. But I'm trying to remember the name of her line. But she definitely does body jewelry and incorporates that kind of thing in what was there. And I mean, I know people have done things like the barefoot sandals and that kind of thing. But again, that's something that it's very easy for us to even go back to our own cultural elements and cultural notes and
Mm-hmm.
know, as I said, you have the international inspiration, but you speak it in your local language. And Jamaica is rich. We have all these stories to tell, that have not been told, that we don't need to just go back to the expected and the de rigueur and what people used to, and it becomes boring. So
Mm.
I really hope that person saw that, or were inspired to go that direction, based on how it is that way. So I would say, and just to also just plug this one, guys. If you notice, my drawings are not. In other words, I didn't turn on my high level drawing. I mean, I went to art school, so I've been drawing for a little while, but I didn't turn on any high level drawing. You just start with your basic structures, and especially when it comes to accessories and jewelry, clean, graphic, simple structures. Because once you start putting in your textural elements in there, your material elements, then all of a sudden is very simple now becomes very complex immediately. All right. So definitely, guys, don't shy away from the drawing. Right. Basic structure. You can even go and find templates. You can trace over. It's all legal. You just want to ensure that you can communicate with the persons who are around you and who are working with you. Right. So it's Dahimia Williams, and her line is called Artistic Fusion, and you definitely can find her on Instagram for sure. But she does some of this body jewelry as well.
Okay, okay. Is that something that you see the Jamaican market gravitating towards?
Definitely, we are bling people. Normal. We don't do simple. So again, if you notice, you see it when it's styled for the runway, it often looks inaccessible. But then when you bring it to your space, so, I mean, I know we haven't been going out a whole lot. The whole entertainment sector has really changed. But when we do go back out, then
You
of
can't wear them to
course,
the supermarket. Nobody are
exactly.
wearing going out clothes to supermarket now.
There you go. Or you can wear it for your Zoom parties and your plug-in for fame here, the Saturday night fame party.
I tell you, ladies' night.
There you
Yes.
go, right? But again, what persons can also look as designers on is start thinking about people's lives and think, how can I incorporate this in a way that is accessible to them? Look at people's lives and what they're doing and what they need. You start from there, and then you may find, oh, guess what? They wear a lot of jackets, but is it a way that I could include it in corporate where it looks executive? As in,
Mm-hmm.
what if I did this body jewelry thing as, let's say, it might be almost like a strap that goes over a jacket, almost like thinking of almost like a gun holster, basically, but it's done now in very clean finishes. And again, I know we have a leather issue in Jamaica, but you probably can do it in satin, where it's very well done, finished, clean, and again, a black suit after just with these elements that are running through, or maybe it might be a red suit that you throw it on. So it literally now begins to change the face of an outfit. So our job as designers is to do that kind of a work. You don't come here and expect to just go out there and say, and again, another element, do not copy. You do not need to copy. You get inspired by, but you do
Right.
not copy, right? Which is why I went through the process. We have to understand we have all the elements here, right? So you see the direction, and then you think about your customer, think about the person that you're targeting, and you look at their lives and you blend it into their lives, and look at the stuff that they already have and say, how do I tie it into what is actually there?
Mm-hmm. I saw you displaying some chain link
Yes,
bags.
yes.
This is not entirely new, but is it a resurgent? Was there a time when it wasn't happening and it's suddenly happening now?
So let me tell you where that is coming from. So again, because it's my field, I can give you a little bit more direction. So this line called Bottega Veneta by that is designed by this gentleman named Daniel Lee.
It called what, sir?
Bottega Veneta.
Okay.
Italian, darling. Italian. Italian. So at Bottega Veneta, they basically took on a new head designer, and as a part of, he went into the archives, and based on his direction, etc., then they brought out this element, which is that weaving that you see happening that's there. But along with that, how he showed it was in a very almost a very heavy context of it being more street, and so he was showing it on women in boots and lug sole boots, etc. So it's literally this merge between the soft and the hard, the almost feminine of a sort, and the very masculine work elements there. So literally, and historically, it's a hark back to the 90s, like the early 90s trends that were there. So in terms of our reference zone, that is where it is. So that's kind of what was bringing that back in. As you know, fashion, you might have so people cutting down to that direction, and then based on that, you see other houses say, okay, this is the direction, and then they evolve from their vocabulary with what is there. So that is where you see the very soft leather treatments, those soft ruched treatments, but then you have a hard element to it in essence. And as I said, as I referenced earlier now, so how you bring that to your space as a Jamaican is that as Jamaicans, as I say, for me think about, think about your Jamaican space. So when in a country and you see them go a grung or whatever, and then just have one big old something and then throw something in there and then wrap them up and put it on their head. That is your soft Jamaican shape. So you can pull those elements onto your mood board and begin to reference that, as opposed to taking the same element that you're seeing online and say, all right, let me just do one little version of it, and your little version, you do everything the same and say, no, but it's in a black, green, and gold, so it's mine. Which part? No, you understand me? No, that guys, do the work. We are the designers. Put in the work, and if you put in the work, it will come back to you as such.
All right, Robert. I was about to ask you something. Right, you mentioned that designers ought to know that they don't sell to Jamaicans only, that the moment you enter the online space, you are selling internationally. What would you say to the designer who's developed a sort of, has boxed himself or herself into a particular design that is really just going to appeal to the Jamaican audience, despite putting it out there? How can that person diversify if they really want to appeal to an international audience and make more money?
So the steps that I walked through today are those basic steps. So I know I spoke a lot, but the practical steps that I did is your practical step, and that's why I did it. None of what I did costed me any more money than what is there. If you don't have any marker, buy the marker them from your pitney, right? For the in class when we know say that kind of thing, right? Everything is accessible. Okay, so literally the change doesn't come from, oh, I need all these different materials. Use what is around you, right? This is not about, as I said, I never said go and find a trend book in foreign or whatever. Everybody have internet on them phone or can access it. Let me not be presumptuous, but you have so go online and you have these free sites. You can get the information. All right, and as I said, balance the information. Don't just get from one source, right? So you have to balance the information and make sure that you're balancing it even with your local space or your prime group of spenders, all right? So look at the stores and say how people are responding to something. How and yes, it might be a new item. You find the nearest thing to the new item. How do they respond to handbags? Is it that they're not really buying handbags anymore? Is it that they want a shopping bag? Suppose they want one nice shopping bag when they use all the time, but when they put it on, yeah, people now gonna know say I market them I go or them kind of thing, but because it's fashionable and it fits in their frame. Okay, so read your target group and then put your things within the context of the target group, right? The bag the bag that I did there, it could be straw. You could have used fabric. I mean, we don't have a fabric issue per se out here too tough in terms of finding raw material. So you might say, okay, take the same thing and interpret it in fabric. How would that read? You understand me? Don't pitch your basket higher than where you need for. So don't go say, oh, I need to find pearls from I want, what is freshwater pearls or saltwater pearls from Ray, and I want I need just the softest leathers from. We don't have leather here, right? I mean, the only leather that we have here is from a particular source, which I know can be conflicted at times, literally, right? So use what is around you, and then, as I said, remember your target group, as in how much are you selling the things for. And please also note, I took you to some sites today. Don't say because you see something for $1,000, and then all of a sudden your items are going to be known for $100,000 Jamaican dollars. No. Who are my prime is a prime group that I'm actually targeting to sell to. So as I said, balance the information, use the raw materials that are around you, and work within that scope, because out of the scope of what you have, you can make great products. You don't have to go to foreign and go to this and go to that. Okay? And as we have seen with the in this COVID situation, online is the way to go. And even if it is that you're just doing we post it on Instagram and people respond to you, that's the beginnings of doing the online trade.
As you mentioned online, what happens to the traditional gift and craft producer on the coast who normally sets up in the craft village in Ochi or Falmouth Pier, and no ship coming in more than so right now, and what hope is there for that person, for the online?
There's a lot of hope for that person. There's a lot of hope for that person. What I say to them is that the first thing that you have to understand is that you need to stop limiting yourself to a single market. When you sit in the craft market and wait for people to come to you, you're saying that this is the only way that people will find you, right? I mean, you could even take the things that you have there right away and just basically, start an Instagram page, right? If you don't know how to do it, ask your son, your daughter, your little cousin, etc. And you start offering your stuff online. Okay. Another thing that I'd say to the traditional producer is that one of the challenges, one of the reasons why we get in the zone that we are in is because we're thinking that the person that we're selling to is different than we are. So if I keep thinking that, oh, the person who's going to buy is some white person from foreign who talk like this, oh my God, and you expect them to just dead over you something them, right? But your friend that beside you not interested in your something them. In other words, the same something where you are selling. If you don't want to carry them around with you, if you don't want to use them, if they're not in your world, then I'm not too sure that you should be selling that item. If you can't take those items and send them to foreign to your friend and your family and so, then why are you selling that item? That means that item is irrelevant. If it is that it's the same thing that you've been selling from 1 million years, right? And you just say, oh, you sell it because then say it sell. Oh, at that they want this and one big Jamaica supply that I saw it forgo. Who told you that? Did you do your research? Can you validate that by going online and looking at the other stores? Go to the online stores where these people go to the Walmarts, go to the Pottery Barn, go to those places and look at the other craft items that you're actually competing with and ask yourself, can my item stand up? And please note, as in by itself, as in, it's not about you standing up and giving you this one big story about it. If I was to put it on that site online, right? Is it going to sell? And remember, you have places like Etsy and that are selling craft items. So if I moved my store from in that to one of them, like a shop there, would the things them will sell? And that is the answer to your question. My basic thing is stop limiting yourself. When you limit yourself to just that little location, the craft market, and that is not this you, not this them. I'm just saying that these are the realities, and ask yourself, have I changed my item over the year? Is the same item accessible? So I said there's
what would you say to those same craft market producers who really and truly basically made their stuff for the tourist audience, and the fact that they're not coming in right now? Right. How do we convert the Jamaican jewelry enthusiast from merely this to really having a greater appreciation of craft jewelry and accessories and stuff like that?
So what? So the first, this is what I said. I find that the Jamaican individual, they are interested in local products. They are not averse to buying local products. What they want is something that is relevant to their lives, that looks fashionable, that they can work with other things that's there. Okay. So let's say you are a car producer now and you produce all these things expecting the ship to come in and no ship coming and so and maybe the ship not will come in for the rest of the year, etc. Right? Maybe this is the time to probably look at what you have and begin to repurpose things that are there. So for example, instead of you selling a single strand bead that have black, green, and gold on it, what if you, just like what we saw with the trend that was there, multiple strands? So instead of having one strand, why not have five? And then going back to the trend again too, I could walk on the beach or whatever, and I basically find some little, whether it's some found object, it could be, driftwood, it could be shell, it could be this. And then I know make a pendant on that bead, on that strand of beads. So all of a sudden, the same thing that you were selling becomes something else that you can sell at a different price point. So what I'd say is repurpose. It's now time to look at what is there and think. And as I say, the person that you're selling to wants fashionable, forward thinking something. If you can't wear the item, then no fake sell. No disrespect intended, but this is the reality, right? We have to understand, just like how we are on Instagram and everything, looking at other people and say, oh, them nice, oh God, that nice, that's Ray. That is how the other people are supposed to be saying about us. And don't think that, oh yeah, but them white and no, none of that rubbish. We are all people. So if you are not interested in the item, if it don't look like something that can stand up in your wardrobe, if you can't wear, go to church Sunday with your mask, if you cannot, if you can't incorporate it in your life, then it is highly unlikely that they will be able to.
Right. Thank you, Robert. Are there any questions from the participants? You may put your question in the chat, or you may raise your hand and we unmute you so you can speak directly with Mr. Hall. Any questions? I haven't seen any questions in the chat. I've seen comments, cosmic vibration, great stuff, Robert. That's coming from Raoul Dunkley. And Anita Williams says she loves it and she's pumped up.
Awesome. I'm glad. By the way, big up to Rod. I actually went to school with him. He's an excellent illustrator, by the way. Yes.
I'm not seeing anybody's hand up. I'm not seeing I'm not seeing any questions. So if there are no questions, and Mr. Hall did such an excellent presentation. What's this? Donna Gay. It would be great to offer a design training class. All right.
Donna Gay and I will work on that. Donna Gay is my compatriot here, who is, of course, we know the skills that Donna has, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So we need to have her on the next one to probably maybe take some of these designs and let's start to actually actualize them.
But we're going to hold you to that design training class. Well, write it down, Sansia, kind of keep. All right. Okay, everybody. What's this, Kamisha Morrison? I was just about to ask you if it would be offered. All right, we'll work on that. We will work on that, Kamisha. We will work on that. All right. So there being no questions, and it is approximately 11:30 a.m. I will bid you all adieu. Who is this? Ruth? What about sourcing of materials? Can you tell where are the best places to source materials?
Can I, well, two things with that, if I can respond to this. One, I know you can, when Donna comes back into office, you can email her and she can probably help you just kind of with some of that local sourcing. But one of the things that I also want to encourage people as well to is that think about other materials as well too. Let me give you some examples. The green economy, recycling, the green consciousness is very, very big right now. And we actually see it in things like climate change, etc. So start thinking about, like, you know, we have issues like plastic bottles. Is there any way that I can turn the plastic bottles into beads, or to, you know, into some other elements, you know? You know, we've had this trend around with transparency. Is it that I can probably even cut, you know, repurpose some of those materials into these new things? Use other things, like don't just think about what you would like leather, which I know that is something. It's not like we have these great tanneries out here in Jamaica. So think about things like, can I use things like fabric, you know, which we have lots of, you know. So as I say, it's not just about the what you would like. Is it that I can speak to a jeweler, or somebody who can make, you know, clasps and closures from, you know, from buttons and cow horn and this and that, and, you know, so and as Donna is saying, you know, mix your wood and your fabric, mix your fabrics, things that you have a lot of, mix it with the other elements that are there. Thank you so much for that, Donna. And as we said, Donna is a great resource. She's here at JBDC. You can call the office and speak to her. All right. But yeah, like, you know, so as I said, think about what you have around and use that, as opposed to thinking that, oh, we have to go and get, you know. So yes.
Okay. Cassanique Henry is saying, thanks to Robert for the tips and tricks, and she's pointing us to her Instagram page, unique.creations by Tass. All right. Designing class. Angela says, please bring on the designing classes. We're not gonna make big promise and so in here this morning, Robert and Donaghy. So you're gonna have to work that out. It will be one, I guess it will be one of we'll decide whether we fit it here or in the Tuesday afternoon segment.
Exactly.
All right. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us, and ensure you join us again next week. Follow JBDC on all our social media platforms. We are everywhere. This video will be available on YouTube in a couple of days. It's going to be placed there with all the others that we've been uploading since around April, and so you can actually binge watch JBDC forums and training videos. You can binge it. It will be a good binge. Get your notepad and everything, write it down, because if ever there were a time when you needed to crank things up, it is now. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We are everywhere. Just look for JBDC, and you should be added to our email distribution list. So stay tuned for any information that comes through via that channel, and you can always call us. We are headquartered at 14 Camp Road, and the gentleman who brought this webinar to you this morning is based at 76 Marcus Garvey Drive at the Garmex Free Zone. All right, so don't stay too far, stay close. We're here to help you. Plenty of experts in JBDC. See you again next week, and tell your friend and colleagues to join us. All right, take care.